In the headlines, the Chief Medical Officer reports that all COVID-19 cases have recovered. St. Lucians employed with Norwegian Spirit have been repatriated. And the Labour Minister urges employers to opt for layoffs as opposed to terminations during the COVID-19 economic fallout. The details of these stories and more are coming up.
This is the Hot 7 Nightly News with Lovelace and Amy Joseph.
Good night. It is Wednesday, the 22nd of April, 2020. Welcome to the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. We're on Flow Channel 117. The broadcast is also being simulcast on Kiss FM and our Caribbean Hot FM mobile app. I'm Lovely St. Amy Joseph. Thank you for joining us. As of the 22nd of April 2020, St. Lucia has a total of 15 confirmed cases of COVID-19. To date, all of the positive cases in St. Lucia have recovered, with the remaining 2 cases who were in isolation receiving negative COVID-19 test results and since being discharged from hospital. There continues to be good news from the island's health officials as it relates to the national response to COVID-19. The island has so far recorded 15 cases of the virus and now touts a 100% recovery rate.
All of the positive cases of COVID-19 in St. Lucia have recovered, with the remaining 2 cases who were in isolation receiving negative COVID-19 results and have since been discharged from the hospital. This now places St. Lucia at the 100% recovery rate of all COVID-19 cases. Among the 15 cases St. Lucia recorded were individuals who fell within the category of high risk by virtue of some of them being elderly as well as living with chronic illness. They too recovered well, with no complications or needed critical care.
Laboratory testing for COVID-19 continues to be conducted both locally and regionally with the support of the Caribbean Public Health Agency, CARPHA. The Chief Medical Officer says COVID-19 containment measures need to be sustained to continue this trajectory of no COVID-19 cases.
St. Lucia has modified its testing strategy by increasing the testing on the number of samples from the community respiratory clinics. This would assist us in the assessment of COVID-19 locally. St. Lucia continues on the partial shutdown and on a 10-hour curfew from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. We remain at a very critical position in the implementation of the national response to the COVID-19 threat.
The CMO notes that as seen in more developed countries, even with an apparent decrease in the number of cases and the flattening of the curve, there have been periods of resurgence in cases.
When measures are relaxed and persons become more socially engaged, this provides an opportunity for smaller epidemic waves which are characterized by low-level transmission. It is with the benefit of this information we note the necessity of conducting a risk assessment to arrive at the evidence-based approach in relaxing measures while ensuring the capacity to detect and manage a possible resurgence in cases moving forward.
Members of the public are asked to note that as essential services are made available to the public, the guidelines for social distancing need to be adhered to at all times in the interest of the health and safety of the public. She highlights that the threat of COVID-19 still exists and will continue to for a while. Some of the national protocols include stay at home as much as possible and do not venture out unless it is for food or medical purposes, avoid mass crowd events and social gatherings, practice social distancing and good personal hygiene. The public is also advised against going to public places with flu-like symptoms, including fever, coughing, and sneezing. The government is exploring various measures to help stabilize the unfolding economic fallout, which has resulted in a halt to revenue collection amid the COVID-19 pandemic. The Cabinet of Ministers is said to be seriously discussing a pay cut. Shaka Wooding has more in this report.
As of April 22, 2020, St. Lucia's Cabinet of Ministers has agreed to a 75% salary reduction to help stabilize the economic situation which has resulted from COVID-19 containment efforts. As disclosed by Prime Minister Alan Chastanet during an April 21st parliamentary sitting, the government's monthly revenue for April has dropped from a previously averaged $110 million to about...
Based on the options that is currently being discussed, parliamentarians will actually be going home with 25% of their income if this option is the one that ends up being pursued. So it is across the board.
19. This has created a revenue crisis for the government, which holds the responsibility to meet the salaries of civil servants in excess of $43 million, as well as taking care of its other debts. The Prime Minister lamented the discontinuation of a reserve fund meant for such a situation, valued at $200 million following the handing over of financial responsibilities during the changeover of governments after the 2011 election. Clip. During its ongoing tenure, the UWP administration has rebuilt the fund to $25 million by accumulating $28 deductions from the airport's tax revenue. The Prime Minister assures...
And what should the sinking fund be, Mr. Speaker? The sinking fund at minimum should be your salaries for 3 months and your debt payments for 3 months. Minimum. But ideally, the sinking fund should be 6 months. And what's that amount? $400 to $500 million is how much should be in the sinking fund in order to be able to preserve for a day like today.
During its ongoing tenure, the UWP administration has rebuilt the fund to $25 million by accumulating $28 deductions from the airport's tax revenue. The Prime Minister assures that all which is deemed necessary will be done to stabilize St. Lucia's economic situation and allow the government to meet its various responsibilities. Port 7 News, I am Jack Oding.
The government of St. Lucia has moved to repatriate 8 nationals who were aboard the Norwegian Spirit docked offshore Barbados since the 9th of April 2020. The Department of Health and Wellness authorized the flight to land at the George F.L. Charles Airport at 11 a.m. on Tuesday, the 21st of April, with the St. Lucian cruise ship employees who will be quarantined for 14 days.
8 St. Lucian nationals were on Tuesday, April 21st, repatriated to St. Lucia. The nationals are employees of Norwegian Cruise Line who were anchored off the coast of Barbados from April 9, 2020. With the help of the government of Barbados, a chartered flight touched down at the George F.L. Charles Airport at approximately 11:30 a.m.
8 cruise workers from the Norwegian Spirit were repatriated into St. Lucia. They were received by our team, and this was coordinated through the cruise line, through the Ministry of Tourism and the Ministry of External Affairs. They were received as per our protocols, and they were screened, and they were taken to the Rodney Bay Public Health Facility where they'll be quarantined for a period of 14 days.
The Department of Health and Wellness is working in tandem with key agencies, including the Ministries of External Affairs and Tourism, in undertaking the repatriation of citizens.
Our report today suggests that there are over 500 of our nationals who are stuck abroad with the cruise industry being shut down. The difficulties we have been experiencing is that as we try to repatriate them, the Center for Disease Control has said that cruise lines cannot allow anyone to get off the various ships because of the tremendous concern that they have had with coronavirus. I want our families to know that we're doing everything at a diplomatic level, at a level of discussing with the airlines, discussions with the Florida Cruise and Caribbean Association, the cruise industry's representative body, to bring our nationals home.
With such a vast number of St. Lucian nationals desirous of returning home at a time when there are travel restrictions globally, Minister with responsibility for external affairs, Sarah Flood-Bobra, says this must be done with the observation of health and safety protocols.
And regarding as a matter of high priority is to see how we can continue to collaborate to bring more of the St. Lucians home, and to assure you as well that our government will work with the agencies to ensure that as soon as it is practically possible and safe to do so, we will ensure that all of our St. Lucians are brought home safely.
The government is working to repatriate more nationals in the days and weeks ahead. For the government of St. Lucia, I am Joreen Georges.
Labour Minister Stephenson King addressed the nation on Tuesday night. The address came against the backdrop of anxiety and concern about the economic fallout from COVID-19, which has led to joblessness for a number of St. Lucian workers. Labour Minister Stephenson King called for patience as the ministry tries to address the current situation of a slowdown in the economy due to the partial shutdown to contain COVID-19 and the impact that this has had on employment. Minister King says his ministry recognizes the uncertainty of the time and so is working assiduously to ensure workers' rights and interests are preserved. He made it clear that there are no changes to the labor laws of St. Lucia. He urged for the consideration of layoffs as opposed to termination of employees by employers who are in a financial crunch.
Given the seriousness of this global pandemic and the uncertainty of the times, we believe that a layoff period of 6 months is appropriate, for whilst the employee may not be paid during that period of layoff, he or she will still have some measure of job security, and at the same time allowing for the employer to examine his or her books, review and consider redeployment of workforce, and reposition business to work towards recovery. Whilst there is no obligation to pay salaries during the period of layoff, the employer is strongly encouraged to exercise goodwill and discretion where resources permit, especially to support breadwinners and loyal and long-serving employees.
He says having seen the effect of COVID-19 around the world, the ministry is working with stakeholders to ensure concerns are addressed. But he acknowledges that the current times are as novel as the novel coronavirus. He notes that consultation is needed in a tripartite effort to ensure effective application of existing labor laws and to allow time for recovery. He made an appeal to employers for compassion and fairness.
I appeal to employers to dig deep and allow your humanity, compassion, and consideration for your employees to emerge. Recognizing the value of your employees in the growth and development of your enterprises, you should seriously consider sharing accumulated resources and profits with employees in their time of extreme need. This is truly the time to be our brothers and sisters' keeper.
The minister notes that it is not the role or jurisdiction of the Department of Labor or the Labor Commissioner to sanction rotation, reduced hours, work from home conditions, salary cuts, and other adjustments to workers' contractual terms. Rather, this continues to be a function of negotiations between employees and their representatives and employers. However, he says recognizing this unique situation during the COVID-19 pandemic, all arrangements from negotiations should be made in writing to protect all parties.
Employees, I also appeal to you and your representatives for understanding and consideration of the efforts by employers to keep businesses afloat and staff engaged in this difficult time.
However, recognizing this unique situation, the minister urges that all arrangements from negotiations be made in writing for the protection of all parties. He says the Ministry of Labor continues its work and says employers and employees can reach out to the ministry for guidance and information during these challenging times. An online promotion purporting to gift Massy customers with coupons has been exposed as a scam. Customers are being warned by Massy stores not to fall for the message that has been widely circulated via social media. The warning was disseminated via the company's Facebook page, stating, quote, "Dear customers, please take note of a fake promotion in circulation that is in no way affiliated with Massy stores. We urge you, do not give your banking or personal information in any way or to anyone online, as it is likely a scam," end quote. You're watching the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. Still to come, the Castries South MP questions amendments to the NIC Act. The Prime Minister explains why an extended state of emergency is required. And a community activist calls on the SLP to help the government get testing kits. That and more coming up after the break.